The first thing I noticed when I moved to Fresno was the smell of citrus. It hung in the air like a promise, sweet, tangy, and somehow comforting. I'd taken the job at the local agricultural research center after my divorce, thinking a change of scenery might do me good. My name is Patrick Donovan, and at 44 years old, I thought I understood the world and its workings. I was wrong. It began on an ordinary Tuesday in October. The days were getting shorter, and I'd stayed late at the lab, analyzing soil samples from the eastern groves. The research center sat on the outskirts of town, surrounded by acres of orange trees that stretched toward the foothills. By the time I locked up, darkness had settled completely. My truck wouldn't start. 3 attempts and nothing but a pathetic clicking sound. I called AAA, but they were backed up 2 hours minimum. With no other options, I decided to walk to the main road and try to catch an Uber. It wasn't that far, maybe a mile through the Grove Access Road. I remember checking my phone's flashlight and setting out, the beam cutting through the darkness between the neat rows of trees. The night was unusually quiet. No crickets, no distant traffic, just the soft crunch of my footsteps on the gravel path. About halfway to the main road, I heard it, a rustling sound, too heavy to be a small animal. I stopped, shining my light toward the noise, but saw nothing beyond the first few trees. "Hello!" I called out, immediately regretting it. The words seemed to hang in the air unnaturally. The rustling stopped. Then came a sound that still haunts my dreams. A low, guttural breathing. Not an animal pant or growl, but something that sounded almost deliberate, controlled. I quickened my pace, telling myself it was a coyote or maybe a stray dog. Central Valley had plenty of both, but deep down I knew whatever was moving parallel to me in those trees was too large, too purposeful. I made it another 100 yards before I heard the snap of a branch directly to my right. My light caught a glimpse of movement, something dark and massive slipping behind a tree trunk, something that stood on 2 legs. That's when I ran. I'm not ashamed to admit it. Primal fear took over, and I sprinted down that access road faster than I'd moved in 20 years. Behind me, I heard it too. Heavy footfalls accelerating. Not the sound of an animal on 4 legs, but the rhythmic impact of something running upright. I don't know how I made it to the main road. Adrenaline, I suppose. When I burst out of the tree line, headlights approached. A passing truck. I flagged it down frantically, and thank God it stopped. An older man in farming clothes stared at me with concern as I gasped for breath. "You okay, mister? Look like you've seen a ghost." I climbed in, hands shaking, and asked him to drive. As we pulled away, I looked back toward the grove. For a split second, my eyes caught something at the edge of the darkness. A tall, hunched silhouette standing where the trees met the road. Then the truck rounded a curve, and it was gone. The farmer dropped me off at a gas station, refusing payment. I called a tow service for my truck and took an Uber home, trying to convince myself I'd imagined the whole thing. Stress and darkness playing tricks on my mind. But I knew what I'd seen, and over the next few weeks, I would come to understand just how real it was. The next morning, I returned to the research center with a mechanic. My truck started on the first try, something about a loose connection. As the mechanic worked, I found myself staring at the orange groves, looking for something. Broken branches, unusual tracks, any evidence that what I'd experienced wasn't just a hallucination. "You look spooked," the mechanic said, wiping his hands on a rag. "This area gets to people sometimes. Too quiet." "What do you mean?" I asked. He shrugged. "Lots of land, not many people. Mind plays tricks, though ... He trailed off, glancing toward the groves. "Though what?" "Nothing. Just some stories locals tell. Every town's got them." He handed me the invoice. "You're all set." I pressed him for details, but he waved me off with a laugh. "Just old wives' tales," he said. "Nothing worth repeating." That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the incident in my mind. The silence, the breathing, the silhouette. I turned to my laptop and began searching local news archives. At first I found nothing unusual, just typical small-town events. But then I expanded my search to include the past 5 years and found something interesting. A pattern of disappearances and strange animal attacks, occurring roughly every 3 to 4 months. Hikers in the foothills, a homeless man who'd been camping near the agricultural areas, a teenager who'd gone missing after a party, found 3 days later with what the article described as severe animal-inflicted injuries. The attacks were always attributed to mountain lions or feral dogs, but the timing seemed odd. They always happened within a 3-day window each cycle. I checked the lunar calendar for those dates. Full moons, every single one. The next full moon was less than 2 weeks away. I tried to dismiss it. I'm a scientist after all, a soil agronomist with a PhD and 20 years of research experience. I deal in facts, data, repeatable results, not folklore, not monsters from campfire stories. But I couldn't shake the feeling. So I did what scientists do. I began gathering information. I spoke with locals, carefully broaching the subject of strange occurrences or local legends. Most people laughed it off. Some gave me odd looks. But a few, mostly older residents who'd been in Fresno their whole lives, would get a certain look in their eyes. One elderly woman at the farmer's market paused when I mentioned unusual animal attacks. "You're new here," she said, not a question. "Moved here 3 months ago," I confirmed. She nodded slowly. "There are places around here you shouldn't go after dark, especially when the moon is full." "Because of animals?" I asked. "Because some things don't have a name," she replied, then turned back to arranging her produce. 5 days before the full moon, I found something. A local history blog mentioned an incident from 1973, a mass killing of livestock on 3 farms in one night. Over 30 animals slaughtered, but not eaten. The attacks were blamed on a cult, but no suspects were ever identified. It happened on the night of a full moon. I printed maps of the area and began marking locations of all the incidents I could find. They clustered in a rough semicircle around the eastern edge of Fresno, centered approximately on the very orange groves where I'd had my experience. The research center's property had changed hands multiple times over the decades. Before it was an agricultural research facility, it had been privately owned farmland. Before that, the records got murky. There were references to a settlement from the early 1900s, but little documentation. I decided to visit the County Historical Society. The archivist, a retired history professor named Dr. Reyes, seemed intrigued by my questions. "The East Side has always had stories," he said, pulling out folders of old photographs and newspaper clippings. "Native legends first, then Spanish settlers, then American farmers, all with their own versions." "Versions of what?" I asked. "Of what walks in those foothills." He slid an article toward me, a yellowed newspaper from 1927 with the headline, "Beast of Fresno Claims Third Victim." The article described a series of brutal attacks on farm workers. Local authorities had organized hunting parties, believing it to be a rogue mountain lion. They never found it. "This has happened before," I said softly. Dr. Reyes nodded. "Every few decades, the pattern repeats. Attacks begin, people become afraid, hunts are organized. Then suddenly it stops, sometimes for years, sometimes for a generation, until people forget and it begins again." "What do you think it is?" I asked. He gave me a long look. "I'm a historian, Dr. Donovan. I document what people believed, not what I believe." He paused. "But I will tell you this. I don't hike in those hills when the moon is full. 3 days before the full moon, I installed extra security cameras around my small rental house. I bought a hunting rifle, though I'd never owned a gun before. My ex-wife would have laughed at the paranoia. Part of me was laughing too. A grown man afraid of the dark, of folk tales and campfire stories. But I couldn't forget what I'd seen, what I'd heard. I went to work as usual, but I left before sunset each day. My colleagues noticed the change in behavior. My boss, Dr. Sharma, pulled me aside to ask if everything was all right. "Just some personal issues," I assured her. "Nothing to worry about." "If you need time off." "I'm fine," I insisted. "Really?" But that afternoon, as I was preparing to leave, she approached me again. "Patrick, there's a situation at the Eastern test field. Some of our sensors are showing unusual readings. Normally I check it myself, but I have that meeting with the grant committee." I felt a chill. The Eastern test field was deep in the orange groves, almost at the foothills. Can't it wait until tomorrow? The irrigation system might be malfunctioning. If it runs all night, we could lose valuable data. I wanted to refuse, but what could I say? That I was afraid of werewolves? I nodded reluctantly. I'll take care of it. The sun was already low as I drove to the eastern field. I'd be cutting it close, but I could check the sensors and be out before dark if I hurried. I parked at the access point and grabbed my tablet, which connected to our monitoring systems. The field was quiet, too quiet, just like that night. No birds, no insects, just the rustle of leaves in the light breeze. I checked the irrigation controls, everything normal. The soil moisture sensors, normal. I frowned, confused. According to my readings, there was no malfunction. That's when I noticed the tracks in the soft soil. Large, unusual prints. Not quite animal, not quite human, leading from the edge of the field toward the trees. Fresh tracks. I followed them with my eyes to where they disappeared into the grove. The sun had dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in deep purples and reds. Twilight. Not quite dark, but getting there fast. I should have left immediately. Instead, I took pictures of the tracks with my phone. I even knelt down to examine one, placing my hand beside it for scale. It was massive, easily twice the size of my spread fingers. A twig snapped in the grove. I stood up quickly, scanning the trees. Nothing moved, but I could feel it. The weight of unseen eyes, watching. I backed toward my truck, keeping my gaze on the tree line. The feeling intensified. A predatory presence, patient and calculating. The air seemed to thicken, making it hard to breathe. Something moved between two distant trees. Just a shadow, but unmistakably large. Upright. I ran to my truck, fumbling with the keys, and locked myself inside. The engine roared to life, and I reversed quickly, tires spinning in the dirt. As I turned to drive away, my headlights swept across the edge of the grove. For a heartbeat, they illuminated a figure standing between two trees. Tall, 7 feet at least, with a hunched posture and abnormally long arms. I couldn't see details, just its silhouette and two reflective eyes catching the light like an animal's. It didn't run or hide from the light. It watched me go. I drove well above the speed limit all the way home, checking my rear view mirror compulsively. Once inside my house, I locked every door and window, then reviewed the pictures I'd taken of the tracks. They were clear in the images, unmistakable and impossible to explain away. I sent them to Dr. Reyes with a brief message. Found these at the research center. Any historical precedent? His response came an hour later. Where exactly did you find these? Call me immediately. When I called, his voice was tense. Listen to me carefully, Patrick. Those prints match descriptions from 1927, 1953, and 1986. Each time they appeared just before people went missing. What should I do? I asked. Leave town until after the full moon, he said without hesitation. Whatever you've stumbled upon, whatever has noticed you, it's not safe. You can't seriously believe... I believe the historical record, he interrupted. And the record shows that people who encounter what you've encountered don't tend to survive the next full moon. Please take this seriously. I promised to consider it, but leaving felt like surrender to irrationality. And if this thing, whatever it was real and it was killing people, didn't someone need to stop it? The full moon was 2 days away. The next morning, I called in sick to work. I spent the day researching, printing maps, and marking every location connected to the incidents I'd found. By afternoon, I had created a comprehensive timeline spanning almost a century of attacks and disappearances. Every cycle began the same way. Livestock killings, followed by human attacks, always during the 3 nights of the full moon. The attacks always centered around the eastern groves and foothills, though the radius seemed to expand during some cycles. More disturbing was what I found about the research center's land. Before it was purchased by the university 15 years ago, it had been owned by a private agricultural company. Before that, it belonged to a family named Blackwood from 1932 to 1997. The Blackwoods were rarely seen in town, according to old local newspapers' social columns, but they employed many workers for their citrus operation. Strangely, there were no recorded attacks during the 65 years The Blackwoods owned the property. I found an obituary for the last Blackwood, Marion, who died in 1997. The property had been sold soon after. The attacks had resumed within a year. By evening, my living room walls were covered with papers, maps, timelines, news clippings I'd printed. I was staring at them, looking for patterns I might have missed when my doorbell rang. It was Dr. Reyes, looking grave. "You didn't answer my call," he said when I opened the door. "Sorry, I've been preoccupied." I let him in. He surveyed my wall of research and nodded. "So you believe now?" "I believe something is happening," I said carefully. "Something that defies conventional explanation." "Have you packed?" "The full moon is tomorrow night." I hesitated. "I'm not leaving." "Patrick, whatever this is, it's killed people. It will kill again. Running away doesn't solve anything." Dr. Reyes sighed heavily. "You're not the first to take this stance. In 1986, a journalist named Carter had the same idea. He assembled evidence just like you. Planned to expose everything, maybe even catch the creature on film." He paused. "They found pieces of him scattered across 3 acres. A chill ran down my spine. Did they see what did it? The official report blamed a bear attack, but the sheriff who led the recovery team resigned a month later. Moved across the country. Never spoke about it publicly. We were silent for a moment, staring at my wall of evidence. "There's one thing I don't understand," I finally said. "The Blackwood family. During their ownership, the attacks stopped." Dr. Reyes nodded slowly. "I've wondered about that too. The Blackwoods kept to themselves. Locals thought them odd but respected their privacy. They employed migrant workers mostly, people without deep ties to the community. People who wouldn't be immediately missed," I suggested. "Perhaps, or perhaps they knew something, had some way of controlling or containing whatever is out there." I pointed to the map. "The attacks have all been centered around that land. What if the answer is still there? Some record, some clue the Blackwoods left behind?" "The property has changed hands twice since then, been extensively renovated." "Not all of it," I said. "There's an old farmhouse on the north edge that the university uses for storage. It was the Blackwood family home. I've been inside briefly, it's mostly untouched." Dr. Reyes looked skeptical. "You want to go back there? After what you've experienced?" "During daylight," I clarified. "Tomorrow morning. Will you come with me?" He was quiet for a long moment. "I've spent 40 years studying the history of this valley. If there are answers in that house." He nodded. "Yes, I'll come. But we leave by noon. I won't be anywhere near that place after dark." We met at the research center at 8 the next morning, the day of the full moon. The air was crisp, the sky cloudless. It would have been beautiful if not for the knot of dread in my stomach. Dr. Reyes drove separately, following my truck down the access roads. Few people worked weekends, and those who did were focused on the main buildings. The old Blackwood house stood alone, surrounded by orange trees, its white paint faded and peeling, 2 stories of early California architecture, with a wraparound porch and shuttered windows. I used my faculty key to unlock the storage padlock. Inside, dust motes danced in the beams of sunlight that penetrated the gloom. The university used only the ground floor for storage, mostly old equipment and files. The upper floor was untouched, deemed unsafe due to questionable structural integrity. "Where should we start?" Dr. Reyes asked, surveying the cluttered space. "Upstairs," I said, "away from the university's additions." We found the staircase behind a stack of filing cabinets. Each step creaked ominously as we ascended. The second floor was eerily preserved. Bedrooms with antique furniture draped in sheets, a study with bookshelves still filled with volumes. "The university just left all this?" Dr. Reyes marveled, running a finger along a dusty shelf. "I think they planned to renovate eventually, but the funding went elsewhere. This floor was condemned as unsafe, so no one comes up here." We split up to search more efficiently. I took the master bedroom and attached study, while Dr. Reyes examined the other bedrooms. The study was disappointing. Agricultural journals, account ledgers, nothing unusual. The bedroom seemed equally mundane until I checked beneath the heavy oak bed. A trunk, locked and bound with unusual metal straps. I called Dr. Reyes and together we pulled it out. The lock was old but sturdy. After a few attempts to open it, I went to my truck for tools. With some effort, we broke the lock. Inside, we found a collection of items that at first seemed random. Leather-bound journals, small cloth bags of what looked like herbs, a silver dagger with unusual engravings, maps of the property with markings in red ink, and several photographs of stern-looking men and women. The Blackwoods, presumably. Dr. Reyes immediately gravitated toward the journals. "These date back to the 1840s, he said with reverence, long before the Blackwoods supposedly arrived in California. I examined the maps while he flipped through the journals. The red markings formed a pattern around what was now the eastern test field, a perfect circle with symbols at cardinal points. Patrick," Dr. Reyes's voice was hushed, "you need to see this." He handed me a journal dated 1893. It was open to a page with a detailed drawing of a creature, half man, half wolf, but not in the Hollywood tradition. This was more grotesque, more anatomically precise. Below it was written, "The affliction, as observed in Thomas Blackwood, aged 47. I read the accompanying text with growing horror. The journal detailed the condition that had plagued the Blackwood family for generations. A curse, the writer claimed, that transformed the affected during the full moon. The transformation was described clinically, documenting bone elongation, muscular development, neural changes. They were containing it, Dr. Reyes whispered, not stopping the attacks, preventing them, by keeping the afflicted member of their family contained during transformations. The maps suddenly made sense. They showed a containment system, a cellar or underground room reinforced specifically for this purpose, located beneath what was now our eastern test field. "The circle on the map," I said, "it's not marking the location, it's a binding, some kind of ritual boundary they maintained." We spent the next hour poring through the journals, fitting together pieces of the Blackwood family's dark legacy. They had come to California to isolate themselves, buying remote land where they could manage their family's affliction without endangering others. For generations, they had contained the cursed family member during full moons. But the last Blackwood Marion had died in 1997. The containment measures had died with her. Whoever had been contained was free now. "The current attacks began a year after her death," I noted. "Why the delay?" Dr. Reyes was examining the final journal. "According to this, the affliction doesn't always manifest immediately after death. It says, the curse seeks a new vessel, one of Blackwood blood, however distant. So someone related to the Blackwoods is still in the area," I concluded, "maybe not even knowing their connection. Or knowing exactly who they are," Dr. Reyes said grimly. "The journals describe a consciousness during transformation, primitive, driven by bloodlust, but aware." I checked my watch. 11:30 a.m. "We should go," I said. "Take these with us." We packed everything back into the trunk and carried it downstairs. As we emerged from the house, I noticed a university security vehicle parked beside our cars. Officer Martinez, a guard I knew casually, was writing something on a clipboard. "Dr. Donovan," he called, approaching us. "Didn't expect anyone here on a Saturday." "Just retrieving some old files," I said, trying to sound casual despite the trunk we were carrying. "Historical research." Martinez nodded, though his eyes lingered on the trunk. "Dr. Sharma asked me to check the property today. Said you were concerned about trespassers." I frowned. I didn't mention trespassers to Dr. Sharma. Martinez's expression changed subtly. "My mistake. Must have been someone else." He glanced at the sun. "You folks heading out soon? I need to lock up." "We're leaving now, Doctor," Reyes said firmly. As we loaded the trunk into my truck, I couldn't shake a feeling of unease. Dr. Reyes seemed to share it. "That security guard," he said quietly as we prepared to leave. "Has he worked here long?" "About 6 months, I think, since just before I arrived." Dr. Reyes nodded thoughtfully. "Be careful, Patrick. Call me when you get home safely." As we drove away in our separate vehicles, I watched Martinez in my rearview mirror. He stood motionless, watching us leave. Just before I turned onto the main road, I saw him take out his phone. I spent the afternoon reviewing the Blackwood journals in my living room. The detailed accounts were disturbing. Generations of a family managing an inherited curse, containing the afflicted member during transformations to prevent bloodshed. The later journals described the construction of a reinforced cellar beneath the eastern part of their property, what was now our test field. The containment had been both physical and ritualistic. The affected family member would lock themselves in the cellar before transformation, but the family also maintained a boundary of symbols and substances: silver, wolfsbane, and other elements mentioned in folklore. Most chilling were the accounts of what happened when containment failed. In 1912, Thomas Blackwood had broken free. The journal documented 8 deaths before he was recaptured. By sunset, I had filled more gaps in my timeline. Every outbreak of killings corresponded to either a lapse in the Blackwood containment or the period after Marion's death when no containment existed. I called Dr. Reyes to share my findings, but the call went to voicemail. I left a message asking him to contact me urgently. As darkness fell, I checked my security cameras and locked all doors and windows. The full moon would rise soon. I loaded the hunting rifle I'd purchased and placed it nearby. Though the journals suggested conventional weapons would only slow the creature, not kill it. My phone rang. Dr. Sharma, my boss. "Patrick, I'm glad I reached you," she said, her voice tense. "There's been an accident at the eastern field. The irrigation system has flooded the test area, and our equipment is at risk. I can't reach anyone else." "Tonight?" I said incredulously. "Can't it wait until morning?" "Thousands of dollars in equipment, Patrick, and all our data for the grant report." I thought quickly. "Let me call Martinez. He's on duty tonight." "I've tried. He's not answering." "Please, Patrick, just check the system and shut it down. 20 minutes, tops." I wanted to refuse. Every instinct screamed against returning to that place tonight, but I couldn't explain why without sounding insane. "Fine," I said finally, "but I'm calling you when I get there, and you stay on the line." "Of course, thank you, Patrick." I grabbed my rifle, the silver dagger from the Blackwood trunk, and a flashlight. As I stepped outside, the full moon was just rising, a perfect white disk in the darkening sky. I tried Dr. Reyes again as I drove. Still no answer. The research center was dark when I arrived, which immediately struck me as odd. Security lights should have been on. I called Dr. Sharma as promised, but the call went straight to voicemail. I tried again with the same result. Something was very wrong. I sat in my truck, engine running, lights illuminating the path to the main building. I had 2 choices: leave immediately or check the eastern field as promised. The sensible option was obvious. But what if there really was flooding? What if someone else came to check later and encountered what I feared was out there? I decided on a compromise. I would drive to the eastern field access point, not get out, just check from the safety of my truck. If I saw flooding, I'd call emergency maintenance. The access road was darker than I remembered, the trees creating a tunnel that swallowed my headlights. When I reached the eastern field, I saw no sign of flooding or any disturbance to our equipment. I had been lured here. I immediately put the truck in reverse, but as I started to turn around, my headlights caught a figure standing in the road behind me. It was Martinez, the security guard. Relief washed over me briefly. Another human presence. But as I watched, he simply stood there, staring at my truck with an unsettling stillness. I rolled down my window a few inches. "Martinez, what are you doing out here? Where are the security lights?" He didn't respond, just kept staring, his face oddly slack in my headlights. "Martinez?" Slowly, his lips curved into a smile that was somehow wrong, too wide, revealing too many teeth. "Doctor?" "Donovan," he finally said, his voice raspy and strained. "You should have left town." A chill ran through me. "What's going on here? Where's Dr. Sharma?" "Home, I imagine. Safe. Unlike you." He took a step toward my truck. "You've been asking questions, looking into things that don't concern you." "How do you know what I've been asking about?" His smile widened further, impossibly wide. "I know everything that happens on my land. Your land." Then it hit me. "You're related to the Blackwoods." Martinez, or whoever he was, chuckled, a sound like grinding stones. "Marion was my great aunt. She never knew about me. My branch of the family changed names. moved away generations ago. He took another step closer. But after she died, I felt the pull, the calling to return. You know what you are, I said. What happens to you during the full moon? I didn't at first. Thought I was losing my mind. Then I found my way here to the family land, and everything clarified. He glanced at the rising moon. I've learned to embrace it, the power, the freedom. You've been killing people, he shrugged. The beast needs to feed, and I need to let it out sometimes. Another step closer. The old Blackwoods were fools containing it, fighting it, when they could have reveled in it. I needed to leave immediately. I shifted gears, ready to accelerate past him, but he moved with shocking speed, reaching my driver's side door before I could react. You can't outrun me, Doctor. Donovan, he said, his face inches from my window. In the moonlight, I could see his features beginning to shift subtly, his jaw elongating, eyes changing color. I raised my rifle, pointing it at him through the window. He laughed. Bullets won't stop what's coming. Maybe not, I said, fighting to keep my voice steady, but they'll slow you down. I fired through the window. The glass shattered, and Martinez staggered back, clutching his shoulder. I didn't wait to see more. I floored the accelerator, swerving around him and speeding back down the access road. In my rearview mirror, I saw him straighten up, then drop to all fours in a movement that defied human anatomy. He began to pursue, not running like a man or an animal, but in a grotesque hybrid motion, covering ground with terrifying speed. I pushed my truck to its limits, fishtailing on the gravel road. The main road was just ahead. If I could reach it, reach town, reach people and lights, Martinez, or what he was becoming, was gaining. Each time I glanced in my mirror, the shape behind me was less human, more monstrous. In the moonlight, I could see the transformation happening, limbs elongating, body contorting as it ran. I burst onto the main road, tires squealing as I turned toward town. For a moment, I thought I'd escaped. Then something massive slammed into the rear of my truck, sending it skidding sideways. The truck spun, tipped, and rolled, coming to rest on its side in a roadside ditch. Pain exploded in my shoulder and head. Through the shattered windshield, I saw a hulking silhouette approaching on two legs, at least 7 feet tall, with an elongated snout and arms that hung almost to the ground. I was dazed, upside down, still strapped in my seatbelt. The rifle had been thrown clear in the crash. I fumbled for the silver dagger in my jacket, but my arms wouldn't cooperate properly. The creature reached the truck and peered inside, its eyes reflecting yellow in the dim light. It no longer resembled Martinez in any way. This was the beast from the Blackwood journals, a grotesque merger of human and wolf anatomies. Its breath came in heavy, wet pants as it assessed me. With a scream of tearing metal, it ripped the door from its hinges. A gunshot echoed across the landscape. The creature jerked back, snarling. Another shot, and another. It turned toward the new threat, giving me a chance to unclasp my seatbelt. I fell painfully onto the crushed roof of the truck's interior. Through the space where the door had been, I saw Dr. Reyes standing on the road, a shotgun raised to his shoulder. He fired again, driving the creature back a few steps. "Patrick!" he shouted. "Run!" I crawled through the opening, every movement sending waves of pain through my injured shoulder. The creature was circling Dr. Reyes, looking for an opening. I could see the buckshot wounds on its body, bleeding, but not slowing it down significantly. "The journals!" Dr. Reyes called to me. "The silver!" The dagger. I pulled it from my jacket with my good arm. The creature saw the movement and let out a sound between a growl and a scream. It knew what the weapon was. Dr. Reyes fired again, emptying his shotgun. The creature charged him, moving faster than anything that size should be able to move. It struck him with one massive clawed hand, sending him flying into the ditch. I ran, but not away, toward my overturned truck, toward the trunk we'd taken from the Blackwood house, which was now partially ejected from the truck bed. Behind me, I heard Dr. Reyes scream. I didn't look back. I reached the trunk and tore it open, grabbing one of the cloth bags of herbs mentioned in the journals. The creature was coming for me now, leaving Dr. Reyes motionless in the ditch. "Martinez!" I shouted, backing away. "I know you're in there somewhere. "This isn't you. It's the curse." The creature paused momentarily, head tilted as if considering my words. For a fleeting second, I thought I saw something human flicker in those amber eyes. Then it was gone, replaced by primal hunger. It lunged forward with terrifying speed. I threw the bag of herbs at its face. The pouch burst open, releasing a cloud of dried plant matter. The effect was immediate and violent. The creature recoiled, clawing at its snout and eyes, releasing a howl that seemed to shake the very air. This was my only chance. I gripped the silver dagger and charged, driving the blade into its chest with all my strength. The creature's howl transformed into something almost human. A scream of agony. It thrashed wildly, catching me with a glancing blow that sent me sprawling across the road. The dagger remained embedded in its chest. Black blood poured from the wound as the creature stumbled backward, its movements becoming erratic. It clawed at the dagger but couldn't seem to touch the silver handle directly. I crawled toward Dr. Reyes, who lay motionless in the ditch. Behind me, the creature's growls grew weaker, more guttural. When I reached Reyes, I was surprised to find him conscious, though badly injured. "The binding," he gasped, clutching my arm. "The circle must complete the circle." The Blackwood journals had described a ritual boundary, a containment circle. But we were miles from the prepared site at the eastern field. What did he mean? Reyes pressed something into my palm, a small vial from the Blackwood trunk. "Draw the circle," he whispered, "around both of you." I understood. The silver had wounded the creature, but wouldn't kill it. We needed to bind it, contain it as the Blackwoods had done for generations. The creature was on its knees now, still struggling with the dagger. I uncorked the vial. It contained a thick, reddish substance that smelled of iron and herbs, blood mixed with the binding elements described in the journals. With shaking hands, I began pouring the mixture in a circle around the struggling beast, moving as quickly as my injured body would allow. The creature seemed to sense what I was doing. It made one final, desperate lunge toward me just as I completed the circle. An invisible barrier flared at the boundary. The creature slammed against it and recoiled, as if struck by an electrical current. It was contained within a perfect circle about 12 feet in diameter. "It won't hold for long," Reyes said, his voice weak. "Temporary binding. Need to get it to the cellar." I helped Reyes to his feet. We could hear sirens in the distance. Someone had reported the crash or the gunshots. How would we explain this to the authorities? But when we turned back to the circle, the transformation was already reversing. The creature's body was contracting, fur receding, limbs reshaping. Within minutes, Martinez lay naked and unconscious within the circle, the silver dagger still protruding from his chest, though the wound had somehow closed around it. "The silver interrupts the curse," Reyes explained. "Temporarily forces the human form to return." The sirens were getting closer. Reyes looked at me gravely. "The authorities can't see this. They wouldn't understand." "What do we do?" "Take him to the cellar," Reyes said, "where the Blackwoods contain their afflicted. The binding circle there is stronger, permanent." "And then what?" Reyes didn't answer immediately. "Then we decide whether to follow the Blackwood way or end this cycle permanently." The next 3 days were a blur of activity and moral reckoning. We managed to remove Martinez before the police arrived, explaining the crash as an animal collision. My injuries corroborated the story. Dr. Reyes claimed to have been driving by and stopped to help. We transported the unconscious Martinez to the old cellar beneath the eastern field, hidden for decades until our research uncovered it. The chamber was still intact, with ancient symbols carved into the stone walls and a permanent binding circle on the floor. We placed Martinez inside and secured the heavy door with both modern locks and the ritual components detailed in the Blackwood journals. For 3 days, the 3 days of the full moon, we took turns watching the cellar. Each night Martinez transformed again, throwing himself against the walls and door with inhuman strength. The sounds he made will haunt me forever. Not just animal growls, but occasionally human words, pleading or threatening by turns. During the day, he returned to human form, exhausted and seemingly unaware of his nocturnal transformations. He begged us to release him, claiming we were insane, that we'd assaulted and kidnapped him. But the silver dagger, which we'd removed and placed outside the cell, told a different story. Its blade was corroded as if dipped in acid, just as the journals had described. On the fourth day, with the full moon past, we faced our decision. The Blackwood journals presented two options: continued containment during full moons, or a permanent solution, a ritual ending that would kill both the curse and its host. Martinez was lucid now, sitting calmly in his cell. "You know what I am," he said when I approached. "What we are. We? The Blackwood blood. The power." His eyes gleamed with an unsettling light. "You could join me, Patrick. The bite passes the gift." "Gift? You've killed people." He shrugged. "The strong hunt the weak. It's nature's way." He leaned forward. "But I could teach you control. We could hunt together." I left without responding. Outside, Dr. Reyes was waiting. "He's trying to manipulate you," he said. "The journals warn of this. The afflicted try to spread the curse, create pack bonds." "What should we do?" Reyes sighed heavily. "The ethical choice would be containment. But can we guarantee it will hold? For decades? After we're gone, who maintains the vigil?" "And the alternative is murder," I said. "Is it murder to kill something that's no longer fully human? That has already taken innocent lives?" Reyes shook his head. "I don't have the answer, Patrick, but we need to decide." In the end, we chose containment, not from mercy, but from uncertainty. The journal's permanent solution required blood sacrifice and dark rituals that neither of us was willing to perform. Instead, we reinforced the cellar's binding circles with new silver and the herbal mixtures described in the later journals. We created a false paper trail showing that Martinez had resigned and left town suddenly. Using university resources, we installed monitoring equipment and redundant security systems on the cellar. We established a foundation, ostensibly for agricultural research, that would ensure the eastern field remained undisturbed and regularly monitored. For 3 months, the system worked. Martinez remained contained during full moons, raging against his prison for 3 nights, then returning to a state of sullen cooperation for the rest of the month. We brought him food, books, basic comforts. He accepted them with cold amusement, as if indulging children playing a game. "This won't last," he told me during one visit. "The hunger grows stronger each moon. The containment weakens. The Blackwoods knew this. Why do you think they eventually resorted to passing the curse to a chosen family member who would accept containment willingly?" "You could cooperate," I suggested. "Help us find a better solution." He laughed. "I don't want a better solution. I want freedom, and I'll have it sooner or later." He was right. During the 4th full moon of his captivity, the inner binding circle failed. We didn't discover it until morning, when we found the silver components corroded to dust. Martinez was still contained by the outer circles, but his amber eyes held triumph. "1 down," he said. 2 to go." Reyes and I reinforced the remaining circles, but we both understood the truth. Our containment was temporary. Eventually, the beast would break free, and the cycle of killings would begin again. "There must be another way," I insisted as we drove back from the cellar. "Something the Blackwoods missed or didn't record. We've gone through every journal, every scrap of paper," Reyes said. Unless what?" "Marion Blackwood, the last of the line. She maintained the containment successfully for decades, even as she aged. There must have been something special about her method." We began researching Marion Blackwood's life. County records, newspaper archives, interviews with elderly residents who remembered her. A picture emerged of a solitary woman, deeply involved in local history and native traditions. One article mentioned her extensive work with the indigenous peoples of the San Joaquin Valley, documenting their folklore and medicinal practices. The Blackwood journals mention a native remedy that strengthened their binding rituals, I noted, but the details were never recorded, considered too sacred or dangerous. Our search led us to a nursing home outside Fresno, where we found Anna Whitecrow, a 93-year-old member of the Yakuts tribe who had worked closely with Marion Blackwood in the 1980s. Marion was searching for a way to end it, Anna told us, her ancient eyes sharp with memories. Not just contain it, but cleanse the bloodline completely. "Did she find it?" I asked. Anna nodded slowly. "Our people had encountered the wolf spirit centuries before. We had a ritual, not to kill but to separate, to divide the human from the beast, sending the spirit back to the shadow world. Why didn't Marion use it? It required sacrifice, Anna said. Not death, but transformation. Someone must take the beast spirit temporarily, hold it while it's separated from its host, then release it beyond the veil. Take it? Become the werewolf? I asked incredulously. For a single night, Anna confirmed, one must become the beast, but with a soul strong enough to control it, to deny it blood, and then surrender it to the spirit world at dawn. That's insanely dangerous, Reyes commented. Anna shrugged. Marion was prepared to do it, but her health failed. Cancer took her before the ritual could be completed. She fixed me with a penetrating stare. Someone with a strong will could succeed. Someone who has faced the beast and survived. I felt a chill of recognition. She meant me. The ritual would take place on the summer solstice, the longest day of the year, followed by the shortest night. This would give the beast minimal darkness in which to exert its power, Anna explained. We spent weeks preparing. Anna taught us the complex ritual components, symbols drawn in specific natural pigments, chants in the ancient Yokits language, ceremonial items placed in precise patterns. The Blackwood cellar would be our ritual chamber, its existing binding circles incorporated into the new design. Dr. Reyes was opposed at first. This is madness, Patrick. You're volunteering to become the very thing we've been fighting. Temporarily, I reminded him, and it's our only chance to end this permanently. Otherwise, Martinez will eventually break free, and the killings will start again. The night before the solstice, I couldn't sleep. I sat in my living room, staring at the silver dagger we'd recovered from Martinez's cell. Anna had modified it for the ritual, attaching symbols of her tribe and soaking the blade in a mixture of sacred herbs and my own blood. At dawn, we drove to the research center. Anna accompanied us, moving slowly but purposefully despite her advanced age. We prepared the cellar, drawing the complex patterns Anna had taught us and placing ceremonial items at key points around the room. Martinez watched these preparations with growing unease. "What are you doing?" he demanded. When no one answered, he became agitated. "This won't work. Whatever you're planning, you can't undo what I am." Just before noon, when the sun reached its zenith, we began the ritual. Anna led the chants while Reyes and I completed the final preparations. Martinez grew increasingly frantic, throwing himself against the binding circles, alternating between threats and desperate bargaining. "You don't understand what you're doing," he pleaded. "The beast can't be controlled once it's released. It will consume you, Patrick. It will use your body to slaughter everyone you care about." I stepped into the central circle, opposite Martinez but separated by the binding lines. Anna handed me the silver dagger. "When I give the signal," she instructed, "you must pierce the binding with the dagger. This will create a channel between you and the Cursed One. The beast spirit will be drawn to fresh blood, your blood. And then..." My mouth was dry with fear. "Then you fight," she said simply. "Not with weapons, but with will. You must deny the beast what it craves: violence, blood, dominance. Keep it contained within you until dawn, when the final part of the ritual will draw it out and banish it." Martinez was practically foaming at the mouth now. "You'll fail," he spat. "The hunger is too strong. You'll break. Everyone breaks." Anna began the final chant, her voice surprisingly strong. Reyes joined her, carefully pronouncing the unfamiliar words. The air in the cellar seemed to thicken, pressure building as if before a storm. "Now!" Anna commanded. I plunged the dagger through the binding circle, creating a break in the silver line. Immediately, something shifted in the atmosphere, a tearing sensation that wasn't physical, but somehow more fundamental. Martinez screamed, a sound that transformed from human to bestial mid-cry. The transformation took him with shocking speed, bones cracking, skin stretching, fur erupting in patches. But unlike previous transformations, something seemed to be pulling away from his body, a shadowy essence, dark and writhing. Pain exploded through every nerve in my body. I fell to my knees, still clutching the dagger. The shadow essence stretched between Martinez and me like a living umbilical cord. I could feel it, the beast, the hunger, the power, flowing into me, filling spaces I didn't know existed within my consciousness. Martinez collapsed, human again, but unconscious. The shadow had left him completely, and now it surrounded me, sinking into my skin, my muscles, my bones. The pain was indescribable, not just physical, but emotional and spiritual. I was being remade from the inside out. Ana and Reyes continued chanting, maintaining the ritual boundary. Through a haze of agony, I saw them dragging Martinez's limp form outside the central circle. The transformation took me. I felt my body changing, lengthening, strengthening, becoming something other. My consciousness remained, but now it shared space with another awareness. Ancient, predatory, and ravenously hungry. Hunt, kill, feed. The thoughts weren't words exactly, but primal urges of overwhelming intensity. I fought against them, clinging to my humanity. I focused on faces, my ex-wife, my colleagues, Dr. Reyes, even Martinez, forcing myself to see them as people, not prey. The beast consciousness howled in frustration, battering against my will. Night fell. Even in the cellar I could feel it, the power of darkness strengthening the beast. My body had completed its transformation. I was now the creature I had feared, massive and powerful beyond human limits. But my mind remained my own, if barely. Ana approached the circle, her ancient eyes showing no fear. "Hold it until dawn," she said. "No matter what it shows you, no matter what it promises, hold it." The night became an endless battle of wills. The beast showed me visions of running through forests, of hunting, of the power that could be mine if I surrendered. It offered freedom from human constraints, from moral complications, from the pain of conscious thought. Just give in, and all would be simple. Hunger and satiation, strength and dominance. I refused hour after hour, holding tight to my humanity. I recited scientific formulas, recalled conversations, listed the names of everyone I'd ever cared about. Anything to maintain my separate identity from the beast. Near dawn, it changed tactics. If I wouldn't surrender, it would break me. It turned my enhanced senses against me. Every sound became painfully loud, every scent overwhelming, every touch agonizing. It inflicted pain beyond endurance, pushing me toward the edge of sanity. I was weakening. I could feel myself slipping, my resolve cracking. The beast sensed it and redoubled its attack. Through a haze of pain, I saw Ana watching me, her expression grave. "It's almost time," she said to Reyes, "but he's failing. We need to strengthen him." Reyes hesitated, then approached the circle. "Patrick," he called, "focus on my voice. You've fought this thing longer than anyone. You're stronger than it knows." The beast lashed out, sending me crashing against the binding circle. Sparks flew where my transformed body touched the silver lines. The pain was excruciating, but it cleared my mind momentarily. "Tell me about soil composition," Reyes said suddenly. "Your research. Talk to me about it." It was a lifeline, something purely human, purely me. Through vocal cords not designed for human speech, I forced out words about clay content and nitrogen levels. The beast retreated slightly, confused by this unexpected resistance. "The sun is rising," Ana announced. "Prepare for the final phase." The beast realized what was happening. It threw my body repeatedly against the binding circle, ignoring the burning pain of contact with silver. It was trying to break free before the ritual could be completed. Ana began the final chant, her voice joined by Reyes. They circled me, sprinkling a mixture of herbs and water that sizzled where it touched my transformed skin. I felt the beast gathering its strength for one final assault. It would pour everything into breaking my will, forcing me to shatter the binding circle. "Patrick," Ana called above the chanting, "you must force it out now. Reject it with everything you are." The beast unleashed its full fury, pain, hunger, rage, all overwhelming. For a moment I was lost in it, consumed. I felt my massive body tensing to leap, to kill. Then from somewhere deep within, I found one last reserve of will. I pictured the beast as separate from me, a parasite, an invader. And with everything I had left, I pushed. Get out. The world exploded into blinding light. I felt something tear away from me. Not physically, but at some level more fundamental than flesh. The beast spirit ripped free with a howl that existed beyond sound. Through transformed eyes, I saw it hovering above me, a shadow with amber eyes and hunger made manifest. Anna completed the ritual, speaking words in a language older than history. A doorway seemed to open in the air itself, not a physical portal, but a thinning of reality. Beyond it lay not darkness, but a strange, shifting light. The beast spirit fought against the pull, but the doorway drew it inexorably closer. With a final, silent scream of rage, it was sucked through. The doorway closed with a sound like a single heartbeat. I collapsed, my body already beginning the painful transformation back to human form. The last thing I saw before consciousness fled was Martinez stirring on the floor nearby, his eyes opening, normal, human eyes, confused but clear of the amber light that had marked the beast. 1 year has passed since that night. Martinez recovered slowly, with no memory of his time as the beast. Medical tests showed strange anomalies in his blood that gradually normalized. The curse was gone, truly gone. Dr. Reyes and I maintained our silence about what had happened. The official story was that Martinez had suffered a nervous breakdown and received treatment. He eventually left Fresno, moving to a coastal town to recover his health. Last I heard, he was working as a carpenter, rebuilding his life. Anna Whitecrow passed away peacefully 3 months after the ritual. At her funeral, attended by 3 generations of her family, I noticed several elders watching me with knowing eyes. One approached me afterward. "The burden you carried changed you," she said. "Not the curse, that is gone, but the knowledge." She was right. I remain human, fully human, but I am not the same. My senses are slightly sharper than before. I feel the pull of the moon, though it no longer threatens transformation. Sometimes in dreams, I run through forests on 4 legs, but always as myself, never as the beast. Dr. Reyes and I still monitor the old Blackwood cellar, maintaining the binding circles as a precaution. We've digitized all the journals, creating backups stored in multiple locations. The knowledge won't be lost again. The orange groves still smell sweet in the morning sun. I walk among them without fear now, even during full moons. But sometimes when the wind blows down from the foothills at dusk, I catch a scent that raises the hair on my neck, wild and ancient and hungry. And I wonder if somewhere, beyond the veil we pierced that night, the beast still hunts, still waits, watching for another doorway back to our world. It will find none through me. Some doorways once closed must never be opened again.